I can start. First of all, just thank you all for being here. I feel like this opportunity that you all are here gives me a chance to reach as many men that I can to help get the message out about prostate cancer awareness and helping men be proactive with their health. February the 23rd, I received the news that after my biopsy that I had stage 3 prostate cancer. And it was terrifying news. Was not expecting that simply because of how I felt. And that was a scary thing because I felt great. You know, I had been working out, body was feeling absolutely incredible. And getting my regular checkups, and one of my doctors was concerned that my PSA was a little elevated, but I didn't feel any uncomfortableness or what have you. But because of his judgment as a doctor and him making decisions that were in my best interest, he recommended that I get an MRI, and then from the MRI turned into a biopsy, and then I ended up receiving the results, that immediately ignited, it kind of stimulated major change in my life. It really did. And once I educated myself and got a grasp on what was going on, because I know that people, they deal with all types of cancer every day, but understanding that men, over 3 million men have prostate cancer, and then 1 in 44 die of prostate cancer, and then also 1 in 8 get diagnosed with prostate cancer. So you think of the numbers, and you say to yourself, okay, wow, I was one of those statistics. How many others are out there that don't even know? So once I got a grasp on what was going on and understood what my options were, whether it would be chemo or the surgery or what have you, I made a decision to remove it, which I felt was the right decision. Today, right now, I'm cancer-free, by the grace of God. And now my focus, and I sat down with the people I confide in, my agent Jeff and my business advisor Alan First, and I sat down with them and I told them that I said, hey, I want to turn this adversity into something that will be positive for humanity. And this isn't about me. This is much bigger than me. It truly is. I feel like God is kind of using me as a vehicle in order for me to get the word out, to help create some momentum behind men being proactive with their health. So I'm thankful that you're here, so that this gives me that platform to do that, to reach as many men as I can. And let me tell you, I've received so many calls and words of encouragement and thanking me for being transparent. And then I've received calls from individuals that actually have had the surgery and they're doing extremely well. And they're happy that I'm encouraging other men to do it, because they share with me that, if they did not get the tests that they needed to get, that, their cancer would have spread, or they would have had to do chemotherapy or what have you, So catching it early is extremely important. That's the key with all of this, catching it early. And I was very, very blessed to have caught it early. Even though it was a high-grade cancer, it hadn't reached the point where it spread to my bloodstream or my organs I was blessed. I truly was. It stayed in this capsule, and they were able to remove it. And now I got to go and do my checkups, you know. But the long and short of it is that it's important that guys, that we have the dialogue, that we do, that men have the dialogue they need to have as it pertains to their health, you know. And I hope that this really starts the process of guys starting to talk about their health, whether it be prostate issues or, you know, kidney-related issues, you know, which is silent killers, you know, colonoscopies, you know, and colon cancer, which is another silent killer if you don't get your colonoscopy at a certain age. I mean, all these particular things are extremely important for men, especially, you know, middle-aged men, you know, to start, you know, getting out in front of it and making sure they address these issues before they escalate into something a lot more serious.
Hey, so first of all, how are you feeling right now, you know, being able to tell the world your story and in general, just as you with your health right now?
Well, I feel blessed that I'm able to weather the storm because it was a pretty severe storm that I had to go through. The pain of the surgery, you know, the ups and downs, the emotions that I had to go through, especially after going through all the other things I had to go through with my kidney transplant, you know, and then I had to deal with this, you know. So it's fair to say that I've been battle tested quite a bit throughout my career with all the injuries and what have you. But I do know that something good is going to come out of this. And I feel like this gives me an opportunity to make that happen. And I feel good about the fact that I'm able to share my story to encourage other men to be proactive with their health.
Sorry. So, reading your story and hearing you talk, one of the things that really sticks out is when you're saying how great you were feeling at the time.
Yeah.
And I think we all know you as somebody who takes exceptional care of yourself. But
Yeah.
you know, there's an element to this of if this could happen to someone like Zoe, you know, what about the rest of us who maybe don't take as good care of ourselves? But could you expand a little bit on the life you were living physically, how you were taking care of yourself at that time to feel so great?
Primarily plant-based diet. You know, the only, you know, animal product that I ate was fish. Exercising, you know, doing yoga, drinking a lot of water, eating right. I mean, just doing what I got to do to take care of myself. You know, being proactive with my health from that perspective. You know, this is a silent killer. It is. And the doctors have educated me on that. They said there's so many men that they just don't know unless they get a checkup, you know, and they request the PSA. You know, one of the things that bothers me, a lot of general practitioners don't ask to test for the PSA. You know, the patient pretty much has to ask. You know, it's unfortunate that it's not requested under a lot of general practitioners. It's not requested in other primary care physicians that they test for the PSA. You know, so it usually has to come from the patient to ask the doctor, which I've been educated on that as well. You know, because guys go in, they get a regular checkup, and they never get their PSA checked. You know, so emphasizing that, knowing that, you know, I was feeling completely fine, and knowing I had this, you know, cancer inside my body, and if I wasn't, again, proactive, then I would have found out years later, and it would have been too late, you know. So I want men to get out in front of it. I want them to address not just PSA, but all their health issues. And what bothers me more than anything, you know, and I grew up this way in a household where it was taboo to talk about health-related issues. You know, it was never discussed. It wasn't never talked about at the dinner table. It wasn't talked about at the family reunion. It wasn't never talked about, you know. And I think the more that we talk about the more there's dialogue and there's more information shared, I think the more that people are able to make decisions that will benefit their health long term.
Can you share with us what was going through your head when you first got that diagnosis in February?
I was deflated when I got the news because I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was just completely deflated, you know, to the point where I was like, well, I mean, again, again, man, because I've had so many different health obstacles, and I'm sitting here looking at this one, and I'm saying, how could this particular thing happen to me? I was taking such good care of myself, and then the doctors told me, he said it was way beyond your control. Your grandfather had prostate cancer. Your father had prostate cancer. So there's a 50% chance that you will get prostate cancer. So when he shared that with me, I understood that it was genetic, you know. So immediately, just like I addressed any of my other obstacles, health obstacles, I started getting as much information as I could, trying to find the best doctors so they could help direct me down the right path that I needed to go down in order to address this properly. You know, I had to find the best help. And it's important that you get second and third opinions, which I did. And I finally came to a conclusion of what I wanted to do. So there was, I was deflated. There was fear there. There was, because when you start talking about cancer, immediately you thinking, okay, so where is it? Is it all over my body? I didn't find that out till shortly after, and they did a PET scan, and then they, you know, which was a relief when they told me that it hadn't spread. So as soon as they gave me the diagnosis, they called me on the phone, and then I rushed over to the hospital and had the PET scan done, and then they found out that it was encapsulated and it hadn't spread. So that gave us hope towards trying to solidify next steps.
So you're obviously a public figure. This is private matter. How
Yeah.
Was it a difficult decision to share your story, or was it pretty simple because you wanted to use your platform in this way?
You know what? My doctor, Vipal Patel, in Orlando, he's done over 18,000 robotic prostatectomies, and he told me, he said, look, he said, there's so many men out there that have cancer and don't even know they have it. And I thought long and hard about that. We were having this conversation shortly after the surgery as I'm laying in the hospital bed, recovering, in a lot of pain, by the way, because they had to cut through a lot of muscle to get to the prostate, you know, so the healing process is very painful for me from that perspective. And I said, Doc, I said, well, how do we help those guys that don't know? He's like, man, he said, we got to get the word out. We got to encourage these guys to go and just get regular checkups, you know. So I thought about it. It was all stimulated by that conversation. So then it really wasn't, and my thoughts really wasn't about me, you know. Yes, I was trying to get out of the hospital and get back to a normal life and heal up, you know. So now yesterday was 11 weeks removed from the actual surgery, yesterday, Monday. And I'm back in the gym working out, everything, I'm feeling good. But I knew at that moment when Dr. Patel and I were having this conversation, I knew that I couldn't just wait for somebody else to do it. And I knew that this moment was an opportunity for for me to try to help as many people as I could. So it wasn't about me anymore, you know. Yeah, I had to focus on my health and get myself right, but I had to make sure it was the right time, and I felt like this was the right time when I got my 8-week checkup. Blood test came back cancer free. My PSA is extremely low, and I said it's time. It's time for me to get the word out. You know, identified the right spokesperson. You know, Jeff and I, my agent. You know, we sat down and identified a person that could write the article and to reach as many people as possible. And from there, you know, I really just wanted to just make a difference. Because this is about keeping people alive. It truly is. I was lucky. You know, it's a lot of people that won't be as lucky as I am. But I feel like if I can touch them before it even gets to that point, if I can reach them before it gets to that point and they're able to make the right health decisions for themselves, then that's what this is all about. Me sitting here is about saving lives.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Can you talk about the support you received from those in your personal life, your private life, and then also receiving support from the public?
It was so uplifting to hear the texts, the emails, the comments, people calling. Many were so elated that I was so vocal and transparent with my personal life, and then also I had some people share their testimony. You know, a friend of mine, he works for the NBA. He just had his surgery done his prostate removed last year, and he's on the mend. And he's like, "Hey man, I'm so glad you did this," and I'm not gonna mention his name, but he said, "I'm so glad you did this." He said, "Anything I could do to help, you know, I would love to tell my story as well to encourage other men, because that's what it's about. I mean, men don't like going to the doctor. They just don't. You know, my grandfather, they didn't want to go to the doctor. They never did. You know, I was always taught as a kid to gut it out and suck it up, and you know, and that's not the way to go. It's not, you know, that's not the approach to take. Yeah, we want our young men to be tough, you know, but we want them to be smart too, you know, and we want to encourage them to have better health habits, and going to the doctor is part of that process, you know. Knowing how to speak to doctor, knowing what questions to ask them, you know. It's one thing going to the doctor, and many people, when they go to the doctor, they're intimidated. It's natural, you know. There's a reason why when people go to the doctor, their blood pressure goes up. They check their blood pressure, and then the doctor say, well, let's wait a minute until you calm down, because a lot of times people are nervous when they're in the doctor, and that's how I am too. I don't like going to the doctor, but I know I have to do it. But encouraging people to be proactive with their health, understanding that there's so many underlying reasons and health obstacles that can escalate, but if you catch them early, you know, you can diffuse the problem before it gets to a certain point. And that's high blood pressure, kidney disease, you know, cancer, colonoscopies, you know, all of that stuff. I mean, it's just so many different things that if you catch it early enough, you could kind of diffuse it and address it before it escalates into something a lot worse.
You touched on it a little bit there in terms of men not liking to go to the doctor and
No.
put it off. I'll get to it sometime later.
Totally, yeah.
And we know you as a competitor, and you thrive in this building, in a competitive environment, and this is happening during the season.
Right.
Team is trying to make a run. I'm sure
Yeah.
you want to be around it. How difficult or maybe easy was it for you to pull yourself away from that and focus on this? And on top of that, what kind of support have you received from the organization as part of
And
that?
Pat Riley, I mean, he's the best. You know, he's extremely supportive. And when I shared the news, and I waited before I told him. He told me, and I shouldn't have waited as long as I did, but I just wanted to get a hold on what was going on. But once I gathered all the information and knew what I was going to do, he told me, take as much time as you need. Come back when you're ready. So he's very supportive. And he said that he was there for me if I needed anything, obviously. But he said, take as much time as you need, And I came back probably a lot sooner than I should have. Because I wanted to be there for the guys, But yeah, it was tough being away from the team. It really was, And I tried to keep it as private as possible until I got things under control, But I'm in a much better place now, and I'm ready to stimulate change in this space as it pertains to this narrative. I'm ready to stimulate positive change to help men think differently. Because this isn't going anywhere. It's not, and knowing that this affects men of color even more, and I know men of color, traditionally speaking, with all the other obstacles they face in inner city community where they not only they're not comfortable going to a doctor, but can't even afford to do it, or taking care of their families or what have you, and can't afford to really pay for health care. It's important that we get the word out and encourage these gentlemen, to try to figure out ways to get proper screenings, and I want to be a part of that initiative and create some momentum around that.
So when you got the diagnosis and you started, I'm sure, Googling or something like that, what surprised you the most from the stats? Because you were giving us those numbers, and those numbers alone are, staggering for men.
Yeah. And I just gave you the numbers that I think these numbers are from like 2019. Yeah. 2019, 2024. Some of them are pretty much the same. Staggering numbers, but that's not even including, they don't even have the numbers of the men that aren't diagnosed and have cancer. So the numbers are higher than that, probably, So you think about the statistics, it's intimidating to think that, if you take 8 men and put them in a room and point to one of them, like, okay, you're the one, Or you take 44 men and you point to the one and say, okay, you're the one that's going to die of prostate cancer, So with these statistics, I mean, they're very intimidating, but also knowing that it can be addressed if it's caught early, which is so important to know that there's hope. There's actually hope if you're proactive, if you get out in front of it. And I feel like that this stage, this platform, these cameras, will help create some amazing momentum and change in society. I'm hoping that, across the country, across the globe, where Dr. Patel has had people from all over the globe come to see him. Like I said, he's done over 18,000 prostatectomies, so that lets you know, it's how many people this affecting, and like I said, that's not even including the ones that really don't know, So the more we can get the word out, the more that we can kind of help heighten the attention behind it for men, and we can help save some people's lives.